Hi, I'm Larry Gifford. I have Parkinson's disease. This is When Life Gives You Parkinson's. Joining me on this episode of the podcast is my partner in Parkinson's, my wife in life for the last 20 years, Rebecca Gifford.
Hello.
Hi, honey.
How are you?
I am pretty good right now. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
We haven't seen each other much yet today, so
No,
I just wanted to check in.
Walked out of the office, and here we are taping.
Here
Went
we
from
go.
job to podcast to...
Well, I'm looking forward to this episode because this week we're going to discuss living through a pandemic with Parkinson's in the house. And we'll update some of the episodes that we've been receiving questions about. But first off, we hope you are well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird time, this pandemic, this COVID-19. Like, it's kind of put everybody on their, I think everybody's walking sideways.
The weirdest time I've ever lived through, for sure.
Right?
And modern times are full of lots of weird things. But this is the full-on tower falling.
This is like if this doesn't go, I wonder what message the world is trying, the universe is trying to send.
Perhaps we're supposed to be learning some lessons here. And the universe and the planet are forcing us to learn them.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, we're living through a pandemic.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I like to, the image that keeps coming to me is that it's shining a spotlight on everything that needs to be considered and looked at and shifted. And in a bigger way, in a major way for society and especially the first world parts of the world, and how we're looking at things, how we're utilizing the planet and our communities and each other and technology and everything else, but also in smaller ways where it's shining in our family and us as individuals. It's just kind of immediate. It's like Sauron's eyes, like immediately goes to that, whatever that issue comes up for you when you're under stress or confined and feel like your freedoms are being encroached upon, and all the issues and all of the anxieties and fears and irritabilities that come up when you're under that kind of pressure.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, and there's so many lessons. Like, I'm learning how important human touch is. I didn't realize I touched people as much as I did, but I feel like other than you and Henry, I have not touched a soul in like 3 months. And I'm like, I miss people.
Right. Well, and it's more just than physical touching.
Right.
It's about community and being with each other, being near each other.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going around grabbing people in my everyday life. I just like a hug here or a handshake here or, a high five or just like sitting elbow to elbow and having a beer.
Well, and we're all learning how to communicate in a less physical, less direct way. So being in someone's presence is always nice. You love being close to your loved ones and your family and friends, but you don't have to be close to them in order to feel connected to them. We can see their face or not see their face. We can be on FaceTime, or we can just be over the phone, or we can just connect with a text here and there and still feel really connected to our loved ones. I think that's a big societal lesson that's being learned right now.
Technology has been huge. I mean, who knew what Zoom was before this? This now Microsoft Teams. I mean, people are using all sorts of ways to connect, and which has allowed me to connect with people that I usually only, exchange tweets with. Now I'm seeing them on my screen, and we're having chats and group chats, and that's kind of fun.
Well, and the folks who are closest to me, my inner circle, even if I just check in with them every once in a while, I feel continuously connected to them because we've reached out to each other and said, I'm here if you need me. Sanity check. Do you just need to chat? Do you need just 5 minutes here and there? And it used to be, let's set aside a time and make sure that we're both available so that we can talk for an hour or two and do a big catch up and everything else. And now it's this more continuous, I'm here, I'm available when you're in crisis, when you're having just a really bad day or want to rant, or you just want to connect with somebody with a loving word and say hello. Those people are available to me.
Yeah, and then there's the populations of people that are living by themselves or that are in, nursing homes or whatever, where you're not allowed to visit, and they're wondering, and if they have any sort of dementia or anything, they're wondering, like, why aren't people coming to visit me anymore? And that's really tough. I heard something really great the other day. They go, you can go to outside their window and plant a tree or plant a bush or something, and sort of recognize them that way, so that when they look out, they see the tree you planted or whatever,
right.
Or put out flowers or whatever. And I think that's really cool.
It is. Yeah, people are getting very creative in ways to stay connected. But again, I think it's really learning that lesson where you don't have to be in continuous contact with someone to feel connected and supported.
The other thing that, on a more global perspective, as it relates to Parkinson's and really, research and the search for cures in general, like you see the way that the red tape around the world, the governments are slashing in order to find a vaccine, and the collaboration that's going on around the world of all these great scientists and these neurologists and these great virus experts, and I'm sure there's a fancy name for a virus expert, but
epidemiologist.
There you go. And all these great minds coming together and collaborating, trying to find a cure as fast as they can. And it's like, cool. Now that we know you can do that, let's once we get this solved, let's turn that attention to Parkinson's, and then turn that attention to ALS, and then Alzheimer's, and let's just tackle them one at a time and
absolutely
be done with it.
Yeah. Well, and there's a local organization where someone connected to it told me recently that they had been working for years to try to get telehealth and other things involved in their community, and being able to offer folks who don't live near their particular center to get the services that they needed on a regular basis with less travel, making it easier. People who are older and can't travel very easily, et cetera, been working for years and had run into tons and tons of red tape. And then the coronavirus hit, and bam. Within 2 weeks, suddenly it was there, and they were like, oh, you could do that. So it's just a matter of what's the sense of urgency. But now all of these lessons have been learned, and everybody's getting used to this technology, and there's no going backwards now. So hopefully we'll gain the benefits of that over time. The
telehealth is really cool. I mean, we've both experienced that. We met with my doctor, Dr. Squires, via telehealth, and it was a great meeting, and I felt as if I actually got more of his time and attention, because there weren't other patients around, there weren't nurses coming into the room, there was nobody else around to distract him other than his dog.
He was in his quiet space in his home, and we were in our quiet space in our home, and yeah.
So that was kind of cool. And as I talked to others, both the neurologists and the people with Parkinson's who are going through the telehealth experience, for the neurologists, they really like the peek inside the home. And so a lot of them are going, oh, you know what? That's a horrible chair. You should not be on chairs with wheels, because you're trying to stand up. You need to have chairs with legs, not wheels. And just like those little things that we don't think about.
Right. And would never report because you don't see anything wrong with it. And haven't connected that sore leg or whatever, that hip that's out of alignment, to that crazy chair that you've been sitting on.
Right. Or, hey, look, they have 4 small puppies in the house. Or whatever. You can see that when you have a telehealth appointment, or little kids running around, or lots of toys everywhere, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Those are things that they would never know without being able to glimpse inside your house, which is really cool.
Benefits.
And then they can recommend an occupational therapist to come in and look at your house to put it in order, or a physical therapist if you're having certain issues. And I think that's one of those things where the light of Sauron is now shining on these little issues.
Right. The need for a more holistic, comprehensive approach to looking at especially a disease you're going to be living with for a long time.
Yeah, and then they get a glimpse into your everyday life, where when you go to the office, everything's sterilized and it's not a normal day, and you've been traveling,
you've been in traffic, and right. Parking wasn't great. And
yeah, right. Never is. Never's great.
Right.
How are you handling the stress of the pandemic?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's offered lots of lessons. Again, the spotlight onto what kind of comes up for me, my habitual thing is that I get kind of into control issues when things feel massively uncertain and I feel like I don't have any control over my surroundings or especially in the larger world. I kind of get into that panicked, but I need to control something. And that manifests in sometimes healthier ways, like cleaning, and sometimes things like feeling like I need to control my son a little bit more, control what he's doing during the day, rather than giving him kind of some of the freedoms that we have allowed him about how he spends his time. And that ends up creating conflict in the house. So I think that in lots of ways I've been kind of going to habitual things, but noticing it a little faster simply because, I've worked on myself and Parkinson's has actually revealed a lot of those things. How do I handle uncertainty and all of that? A lot of those things have been revealed through our Parkinson's experience so far. And therefore I was aware of them and could kind of catch it and use tools, use meditation, use outdoor time, all the things, writing and journaling, all of those things that I use as my regular tool for getting through stressful times. And when I feel these emotions that are feeling a little overwhelming, those are the tools that I'm going towards. In addition, I do want to say, because the stress level is partially ratcheted up because we have a 10-year-old son who has a tinge of anxiety issues. So the stress in being inside, because outside is a big balancing thing for him, he's been particularly ratcheted up emotionally, emotional roller coaster, I would say, pretty much every day. So finding those joyful moments with him, because it's an emotional roller coaster, that means that the ups are really good. And he's kind of this naturally, when he feels like it, joyful, laughter-filled, silliness-filled kid, really taking advantage of that and not resisting that so much. I learned that after a few weeks of this. But so rather than like, you're not doing what I want you to do, kind of embracing those moments. Oh, you want to do a tickle fest. You want to do a pillow fight. Okay, it's not this, more educational activity over here that I would really like for you to do. But we're going to do that now because that's what you need. And I'm going to get a lot out of it too. And it's just fun.
Well, and he, for the first couple weeks, was craving a lot of sugar. And I wasn't putting two and two together. And I realized he was just going to his vice.
Yes.
Just like his parents were going to the liquor store.
Right. Right? We weren't setting a very good example where that's concerned.
But thank God liquor stores and wine stores are essential services.
In some countries, they're completely shut down. We have a friend who lives in Cape Town, South Africa, and they have had no liquor or cigarettes for weeks now.
That's amazing.
And she's hoarding.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really interesting point, though, as it relates to people with Parkinson's already being somewhat prepared for the uncertainty of this pandemic. Because a lot of people haven't experienced uncertainty, and we're living it every day, minute to minute. We don't know what's going to happen with our symptoms, and neither you don't know how I'm going to be when I wake up from a nap or when I come home from work or I wake up in the morning. And sometimes I go, hey, honey, can you help me out of bed? And sometimes I'm like, hey, spry as a kite.
Yeah.
Spry as a what?
Spry as a kite?
I don't even know if that's a term,
wow.
Is it?
Yeah.
I just made that one up. Spry as a kite.
You're bouncing out of bed like a spring.
Okay. Not quite, but close.
Yeah.
Maybe an old spring.
Like this morning, you got up really easily. But
yeah, I had to really go to the bathroom, though.
So well, there's that. But they were, 4 or 5 days ago, you were kind of like rolled yourself out of bed and your legs sort of worked. And I woke up and went, honey, do you need some help getting down the stairs? One stair at a time.
Sliding my right foot across the step as I go down. Especially when everything started and you would see your neighbor in the backyard or whatever, and you would talk about how is everybody doing and whatnot. Almost everybody said, it's so frustrating because we just don't know what's going to happen. It's just we're riddled with uncertainty and everybody's very stressed out about that. And so that's our main concern. We don't know what's going to happen with the schools. Am I going to go back to work? What's happening? That uncertainty. And that was actually one of that never really came up for us as what are we dealing with and how are we dealing with this? The uncertainty is certainly more than if we were in a
normal life or a previous life with just Parkinson's and the other things that we deal with. But that level of uncertainty it went up a couple levels for us, where for most people it went up 17 levels.
Right.
So it's almost like and I've heard other people in the Parkinson's community talk about that as well. That uncertainty is not such a big deal for them because they're already kind of living it. It's like we have that muscle is already conditioned.
Yeah, we've embraced it, and it's part of the experience. Ride it like a wave. General wellness is always an issue. We always want to make sure people with Parkinson's get exercise. Going to your physiotherapist for exercise classes, or just going to your physio for one-on-one treatments, and a lot of that stuff has been cut off. But then there's been some really creative, solutions to that. I'm still not exercising nearly as much as I should, but I did get out and play a little soccer with Henry yesterday, which was good. I've walked around the block a lot more than I have in the past, but it's certainly, I've done some exercise. Well, I didn't do exercise classes. I did the exercise warm-ups for Tim Hagg's class, and I did the exercise warm-up for Jimmy's class, and I did a cool down.
Yeah, the warm-ups are hard.
Maybe I'm just not accustomed to them, but yeah, they're different. They're ridiculous, really.
Yeah, but there are a lot of adaptations, so you could ratchet it down a little bit.
But there's a lot of great online free exercise stuff going on with free yoga, and so that's been a kind of a cool thing to happen through all this as people look for alternatives to whatever they used to do.
Well, and I think that a big part of general wellness for most people is outdoor time. Especially in the beginning when people were fearful to go out because social distancing was new and you were afraid to run into people, period, and you weren't sure how to go to the park and feel more comfortable and what the spacing was like and whether everybody was on the same page where it was concerned, and how do you negotiate that socially and physically. In those early days, it was very frustrating for our family because a big part of balance, emotional balance, energetic balance, physical balance, is to get a lot of outdoor time, including for you, even though it's not always, the energy, the high exercise that you're supposed to do for Parkinson's. You were getting a lot of outdoor time just by being in our family, because that's, especially Henry and I, that's what we do. So your general wellness is affected by that, period. I understand why we need to do the social distancing. I understand why people are staying home and staying in their neighborhood and trying to contain it. My fear is that that's going to affect general wellness, especially for people who have a chronic disease or a degenerative disease. How is that going to affect long-term wellness for the folks who really couldn't get outside, or it was really impossible or uncomfortable to get outside for any length of time and just get the sunshine and get the fresh air, sit by the water and do that in a safe and socially distanced way?
And really, humans are not designed to be inside of a house with their family for that long.
Really not.
I mean, I love you.
But Jinx, buy me a Coke.
Yeah.
It's all about balance, right? And this is very, very intense, one kind of experience. And it's not really natural or healthy to do on a long-term basis. Now, here in BC, we're starting to open up a bit, and there are plans for certain kinds of businesses and physios and massage therapists and all of those to start to acupuncturists to be available to us in the near future in a very safe way, because BC has done awesome as far as socially distancing and keep it flattening the curve and all of that. It's very, very manageable for us right now, knock on wood. So we're starting to see those services come back. I know in a lot of other places, especially in the States, it's either coming back very quickly, which may or may not be in a healthy way, and so some people don't feel like they can take advantage of them, or they're just not going to come back for a while because they're in a state that got really hit hard.
Well, and a good thing about that too is the one-on-one psychological counseling is going to come back too, because the anxiety and depression that already accompanies a lot of people's Parkinson's as a symptom is only enhanced through quarantine and social isolation, and just the idea of a pandemic. It just sounds like a Hollywood movie, and like that word itself it brings fear with it, and so I know a lot of people have been going through that. I've been more anxious, and you guys have been more anxious about me going to work, once every 3 weeks, going to the office where I'm working from home the other weeks. And we would have never questioned that before, but now it's like, we don't know what is safe and where to go. And like, it's really, it's weird.
Well, I'll tell you what, this time period has shown me and other folks who I've been talking with, some folks in my circle, in a big way, what tools really work for you when it comes to anxiety and fear and depression and panic and those kinds of things. And a lot of people are discovering that they were perhaps relying too much on their environment to help to calm fears and anxieties and ratchet down panic levels and anxiety levels. For me, it was, I need time by myself. I need to have an empty house, or I need to go somewhere by myself. And that's when I can find peace, and that's when I can find calm, when I'm feeling emotionally out of control or anxious. But I think a lot of people are discovering that there are a lot of tools that you can find within. There's a lot of good energy and calm and peace that you can find within yourself, and even amongst the chaos and even amongst the noise. And a child who needs and everything else, or children, most parents have children and they're home all the time, and there's a lot of their own anxieties and attention required while you're distracted with this, and you just kind of, it's this, spinning plates act. They're learning to find that peace within themselves and using tools that they discover or that they've learned in different places, but also just that it's there. There's something really comforting and growth-filled by acknowledging that and learning and really finding confidence in the fact that you have the peace within you and that you have the ability to find that calm, even if the environment is not nurturing that for you, or in this case, can't nurture it for you.
We've got a couple of crystal bowls here. Just taking a couple deep breaths and listening to the ding of a crystal bowl can just bring you back. Or if you need to be grounded and present, then one of the exercises that somebody taught me was just name 5 things that are right there in front of you. Hey, look, there's Rebecca, there's a pillow, there's a nightstand, there's the sink to the bathroom, and there's your necklace. Like, suddenly I'm here in this room.
Right. Back in the present moment.
Say it out loud.
Right.
And now you're back in the present moment. Because we can get lost in that anxiety and fear and the future pictures. And
yes.
And that's, that can be terrorizing.
Right. Well, and so many of us are very sensitive people as well. And everybody in our family is really sensitive and kind of empathic. And so when there's a lot of fear and things are ratcheted up around us in our community, in our house, and our neighbors, in the larger world, we're really sensitive to that. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming and anxious, and like that's coming from within, and that you acknowledge is coming from without. The peace and the love and the calm and the things that you need are found within. That's what's true within. And then the other things are kind of, that's what's the external that can affect those things, and understandably do. But you can always find that within. You don't have to rely upon getting the right information or connecting with the right person or getting alone time or going to that favorite spot that you can't go to anymore because they've closed it down. You can find it. There is a wealth of fantastic energy and information just within your own body and heart and spirit.
When I take the time to really sit in quiet and breathe and listen to my breath and just be still, it's very calming.
And even for a minute. It can just be a minute.
Well, I love the new Calm app. I use that a lot. They actually have the guided meditations, but they also have like this just relaxing piano music, or they tell you a story. Like, such a great app. And there's a couple of them out there that are really good. Mm-hmm. I think one of them's called 10%, and there's another one too. Headspace, yeah. But they're really good apps.
And a lot of really great people are doing videos every day and Facebook Lives every day, and just keeping connected with the community and offering some sort of peace or wisdom optimism or laughter on a regular basis. And there are a couple of people I follow on a regular basis.
Community is super important, as we've discovered through all this.
How are you handling stress?
Well, I'm still exhausted every day around 2 o'clock, and I take a nap. I am drinking, but I always did that. So I actually find I'm eating healthier than when I went to the office, because we're cooking a lot more, and I'm not eating in the mall, from the fast food restaurants and whatnot. Yeah, I think it's day to day, really. There's some days where I feel really good, and part of my job, in the radio, as the national director of talk radio, is I've got to make all these other people feel comfortable about what's going on too, and make them feel safe and empowered in their positions, and so I a lot of what I do is have to think outside myself and try to support others. So when I get that time to really think about, how am I doing? And my bosses are asking me that too. I find that I'm doing better when I'm at home than I am when I'm at the office. It's been a huge discovery for me that my symptoms are reduced for the most part when I'm working from home versus when I go to the office. Even if nobody's in the office, my symptoms ratchet up. It's just the anxiety of the building and being downtown, and there are not even a lot of people, but strangers, and
just additional stress,
and trying to maneuver your way through. And I don't like to drive, but now I don't want to take public transportation either, because I don't want the COVID.
Right.
So it's kind of I guess I'm doing as well as I think I should be doing.
Well, and I find there's a huge power in just kind of acknowledging it and saying, this is how I'm feeling right now. I am stressed out. This is different. This is different than I expected it to be, as far as how you're balancing your day and what's required on every day to find balance. Acknowledging your emotions and naming them, and just being okay with whatever is happening in the office, and your vulnerability and honesty that you've already established with your colleagues and the people who you see on a daily basis when you do go into the office, or when you're in continuous phone calls here at home, because you've established that honesty and vulnerability. So when you name something and say, here's how I'm doing today, when you're checking in with the group, other people feel more comfortable kind of naming it and acknowledging it. And when you acknowledge it, it has less power over you.
Right.
And then you can deal with it. And then as a group, you can deal with it and support each other and figure out how to move forward and have the uncomfortable conversations about how everybody's doing.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and in our family, I think it has shown a spotlight on some things where we needed to have some tough conversations. But largely because of Parkinson's, so in this way, I'm really grateful for a Parkinson's experience. We're more comfortable having those awkward conversations and those tough conversations, and not putting it off for 3 or 4 days and letting it fester, and then just saying, okay, this is what's going on today, and I'm just putting it out there, and tell me if I'm crazy, or tell me, let's just kind of talk this through in a straightforward, direct kind way.
Yeah. And
we've required more of those conversations with all this concentrated time, but that has become easier to do on a regular basis. We've established the fact that that's okay to have those awkward, tough conversations and really name what's going on and talk about it and just move forward, figure out a way to move forward together.
And I haven't asked you directly, but how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's a day-by-day thing. I think that's everybody's situation right now. Some days I'm feeling pretty good. Today I'm feeling pretty good and feeling pretty balanced, and I feel like I can get and have what I need to feel in balance today and help to support the balance of my family and immediate circle. Some days it just feels overwhelming. It just feels like too much. But I will say, I feel like those things are just kind of becoming less and less a present part of our day. For instance, this concentrated time and the shifting time and everything, because our son is kind of more emotional and ratcheted up, and not old enough or mature enough yet to really have the tools to deal with it the way that you and I do. He has shifted how he treats us a bit. His behavior is not as calm and kind as it usually is. He takes out his safety place, especially mommy, unfortunately. And so when he gets angry and frustrated and irritated, it just kind of comes out as big explosions mostly on mommy, sometimes on daddy. And us talking about tools and trying to help him through it or whatnot is, at this point right now, is relatively useless. So we're just holding the space and allowing him to have his emotions most of the time with appropriate boundaries for behavior. Yeah. Like, no, you are not allowed to kick me. But those conversations actually led to us having more frank conversations and moving things forward regarding his educational opportunities.
Right. And so maybe you could say that the COVID-19 sped up that process.
It really did. And it made it more, it made it a little bit easier to see that was the right thing to do.
It made it more acute.
Yes. The symptoms were more acute. Absolutely. So we're, because of that, we're shifting how, starting in September, he's going to be in a private school for kids with learning disabilities. And he has a friend there, and it's an awesome school, and it's perfect for him. And everyone who's on Team Henry is on board with, that's going to be fantastic. What a great environment for him, which gives mommy and daddy more space to create the environment that we need to for us.
Are you bleeding?
Are you bleeding?
No.
Are you bleeding?
No.
Is there fire?
No.
Okay, those were the things.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, you can have that. It's frozen. You gotta defrost it.
I did unfroze it.
Okay. Yeah, you may eat it. It's for you, sweetie. That's why I bought it.
I don't want to eat raw.
It's smoked. So technically it's cooked.
Yep.
So try it and see if you like it, but you're supposed to eat it kind of like candy.
Candy?
Yep.
Just bite it. Like, eat it like an appetizer.
Oh,
Okay, now we told him not to interrupt us unless he was bleeding or something was on fire.
But smoked salmon in the freezer was just too much.
How do you eat it? Isn't that great that he's wanting to eat smoked salmon and not cookies?
Well, I'm sure he would eat the cookies if we had that available too. We just don't. Right? Hence the sugar conversation that we had early in the pandemic.
Yes. I believe that one of the lessons we're learning is the idea of helping each other by making sacrifice. So I think, growing up in America, and we've kind of gotten used to an egocentric society, and this is really shining a light on how when we have to, when we need to, for the betterment of society, we need to make sacrifices. And then we need to recognize those people that are doing those jobs that keep our societies moving forward, that are underpaid and underappreciated and
don't have the resources they need.
Right. And so now we are learning, and as a society, like, oh man, these are people like we were just blinded from, like they were just in the periphery.
I think there's so much potential for positive lessons here. Awkward, positive lessons. As a society, like you said, the unity and empathy and thinking beyond your own experience and all of those things that could potentially come. And I think that some places this is going to happen a little more easily. Our beloved United States is right now going through that awkward tantrum phase of just resisting that idea and not being able to hold the two concepts of empathy and concern for the greater good and being mindful of what's good for your community and country and the world, while also holding your own freedoms and civil liberties dear as well. I think they're really struggling with those two concepts, and there's, it's kind of black and white, the United States, a lot of times, and And there's a lot of middle ground in there, and those are two things that can coexist.
My rights versus the betterment of society.
Right. And that is a hard lesson for a younger country, almost like a preteen country, to learn. And as you know, up here in Canada, it's easier for us to observe because we're not in the midst of it. It also means perhaps there are aspects of it that we're not understanding completely. In Canada, we've figured out how to balance those, because it's not as if people don't care about their civil liberties here. If the country went too far, the government went too far, people would not be happy.
Well, and until this, like, we never asked our neighbors if they needed anything at the store because we were headed to the store, but now we do.
Every week.
Yeah.
She asks me, and I ask her, and...
Right. It's like, hey, or I'm going to the liquor store, you need anything? Like, that never happened before. And it feels like community as opposed to I'm living my life and you're living your life and we happen to be sharing some of the same space on this street.
And we have lived in streets like that where we tried to connect with people and they weren't so common. Now, that said, we also know that some of the most beautiful, nicest, most community-oriented people that we've ever met live in the United States, and we're probably related to them. And so they're very kind, and they are asking their neighbors, and they are community-oriented. We're speaking on a larger scale. And what we're seeing from Canada, peering over to the south and watching the conflict and the vitriol and the clinging to civil liberties so strongly that is even more ratcheted up these days as different states are making choices about when to open up and everything else. That's what we're watching. It looks, compared to where we live, it looks chaotic. And there's so much potential for this to be a unifying major global lesson.
Oh, and I think it will be ultimately. And I think that we're going to see so much good come out of this from the medical community, from society, from just sort of a global look at things. You see the animals, emerging from the deep edges of the forest, and suddenly there's strange spiders on the street, and there's, dolphins where there shouldn't be dolphins, or there haven't been dolphins in a long time. Or like, you're seeing all these things happen. You're like, oh, the Earth's repairing herself.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And we impact the Earth where we are impacting each other.
Right. And this is how we need to behave in order for the planet and all of its riches within can coexist with us humans.
Yes. We're going to continue to learn lessons through COVID-19, and as this, plays out over the course of the next years. And that's what it will be. It's going to take, 12 to 18 months to get a vaccine and get it out to the community and get that herd immunity going. And so we're going to be living through these times for a while. And so there's going to be lessons that pop up, and we're going to help each other through it. And part of that, for me, is hosting another podcast for the Michael J. Fox Foundation about COVID and Parkinson's. It's going to go on for as long as it needs to go on, but that's going to be every other Wednesday. So that's really exciting. And
the first one was really good.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. It's good information. There's humor and research and science and emotional kind of living together in a happy way, and it kind of breezes by. I think you've got a good thing going.
I co-host it with Dr. Rachel Dolan, who is the movement disorder specialist on staff at the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And you can find it at michaeljfox.org, or you can go to Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your on-demand audio and find it there. Just search for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. We'll probably also release some of them through the When Life Gives You Parkinson stream, so they may pop up every now and again, just because. We also want to update you on a couple of past episodes where we've gotten some questions, or there's been updates to it. One of the early episodes this season was Slave to a Pill, which was about Merck and Cinemet and the absence of Cinemet. They stopped production of it because they changed their manufacturing lines. In February of this year, 2020, Merck Sharp and Dome, which is the MSD brand out of the UK, shared that all Cinemet products that they are continuing are back in stock in England and in in the UK. In the US and Canada, however, the market status remains dormant. That's what it says. The Cinemet Control release, the CR versions have all been discontinued. The 250 over 25 and the 100 over 25 milligram products remain unavailable and are not expected to be in stock until March of 2021.
I think originally it was supposed to be this July.
Yep.
Now it's not for almost another year.
Boo.
Boo.
We did do a episode on deep brain stimulation, and the update there is I am now in line for evaluation for deep brain stimulation. Although with the COVID-19 delay, I found out yesterday here in British Columbia, they've canceled like 30,000 or delayed 30,000 surgeries, so there's a backlog, so it's going to take a while to get that evaluation, I'm sure.
How are you feeling about being in the DBS queue?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think that, I've been talking to some other folks about it who are considering it, and some folks have had it. The people who've had it love it. The people who are considering it are tentative because it's like, do I want brain surgery? And then like some of the side effects that can happen where it can affect your speech, and that's kind of a fear of mine. And what I've found out in life is the things that I fear end up happening because those are the lessons I need to learn. And so that scares me a bit to go through that process and then come out on the other side not being able to do this podcast because I can't talk so well anymore. Since I've spent 30 years in radio, that seems like a lot of...
Sure.
So there's a mix of emotions.
For sure. And it's a long queue.
With a long time to think about it.
Right. Which is, and when you got in the queue, it was 3 years.
Yeah.
Until evaluation. And then another 6 months
for
the actual surgery. So now that may, be extended another 6 months or a year. We don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
How you feel about it?
I feel okay. I feel there's time. And there's a lot of progression or not progression that can happen between now and then. It's smart that we got in the queue because it's such a long wait. And that was with the advice of Dr. Squires, and I trust him. Mm-hmm. So I'm feeling like I don't have a lot of feelings about it right now, except for we have time to consider it, and I want it to work for you if that's what you want.
Well, and I think more than anything, what it'll do for us is it will extend my viability in the workforce, and will make us, give that go back 5 years in symptoms, which would be nice to. Because the symptoms are always flaring up and evolving and progressing, and I can feel the progression. And in 3 years or 4 years, I can only imagine what it may be.
And you'll get that time back with me and Henry, and be able to have a higher quality of life and travel more and all the things that we want to do while Henry is still young.
And play Lego every day at 4 o'clock, like I've become accustomed to doing during the COVID. I love the Lego.
Which is one of your stress?
Oh, yeah. I totally zone out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I'm getting pretty good at it. I just need to get more. I think we're going to have to invest in some Lego.
Okay.
Update on the sleep episode. So I got a couple of letters here, notes, Rebecca. Delane writes, Larry, you left us hanging on the sleep podcast. I'm sure you have the same feeling. Sometimes I think I'll lose my mind if I don't get some sleep. My doctors recommended the same antidepressant. Did you try it? Were there side effects? Did you gain weight? Did it work? I'm also wondering what other drugs you're on because it scares me to mix so many. My doctor said get used to it and welcome to Parkinson's. I appreciate your help, Delane. And then Dana writes, Larry and Rebecca, thank you for letting us in on your lives. We feel like we know you. How are you doing with sleep? Did you get separate beds? So there's a couple things going on there. I never did try them. Well, I did one night of the mirtazapine, and it freaked me out because it kept me on a buzz for 2 days. But I am taking the clonazepam, and I'm taking gabapentin for different things. The clonazepam is for active sleep, so I'm not moving around as much in my sleep, but I am. Last night I almost leaped out of bed. I don't know if you know it, but I was jumping in my dreams, and then suddenly I was falling off the bed. So it's happening some, but we still have one bed because A, we're trying that drug, and B, we just haven't gotten around to it.
We had it in the queue, and we had what we needed, and we had the money set aside and everything else. And then we needed money for some travel that became important, and that popped up, and some other things that just kind of got waylaid. It became a lower priority. Now you are more active in your sleep, and I notice it more, but it's not disruptive. So at this point, it's not required for us both to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Once it gets there, it will become, obviously move way up the priority list. But right now, it was a high priority, and then it kind of doop.
Well, the clonazepam has helped, and then the gabapentin also is a sleep aid, but it's supposed to help my neuropathy, and Dr. Squires just upped that by like 5 times. So I'm taking 3 of those at night now, and that seems to be helping me stay asleep a lot longer, like up to 5 hours, 6 hours, which is great. There's also another factor. I had a sleep study done at UBC, and Dr. Fleetham saw me there, a sleep expert, and he was checking out whether I was an active sleeper, and he was also checking out my CPAP, and what do they call that? Why do you have a sleep pap? Because you've got
sleep apnea.
Sleep apnea, yep. See, that's that Parkinson's brain just kicking in there without the recall. Hey. So I actually spent the night in the hospital, or in the research area, and that was a strange, bizarre setup. Like, I don't even know how you're supposed to sleep with 48, little things attached all over your body. And just like every doctor's appointment you go to, your right hand hurts, your right hand hurts, your right hand hurts. You go to the doctor and you can't, was it my right hand or my left hand? Nothing hurts right now. I don't know what's going on. So like I wasn't active dreaming for that one night, so they didn't witness anything. And then he goes, I asked if it got worse, what would you do? And he put me on clonazepam. I'm like, I'm already on it. No wonder it didn't show up.
But it kind of ruled some things out and helped you understand what things were actually affecting your sleep or not affecting your sleep. So it was worth doing the sleep study. And it also, that's one of the reasons also why it became less important to get them. But because we knew the things were being well managed.
Yep. All right. Well, that is this week's episode of When Life Gives You Parkinson's. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Keep banging pots at 7 o'clock.
And share your stress relievers and how are you dealing with it? Go to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Send us notes at Parkinson'sPod on all those platforms, or you can email us parkinsonspod@curiouscast.ca. This Curious Cast podcast written and produced by me, Larry Gifford, and Rebecca Gifford. Our story editor is Dila Velazquez, and our sound design by Greg Schott. Our presenting partner is Parkinson Canada, parkinson.ca. One of the programs the Parkinson Canada offers is a confidential information and referral line. So if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to info@parkinsons.ca. Parkinson Canada colleagues are there for you. They're great listeners and can answer questions on a huge range of topics. Special thanks also to our promotional partner, Spotlight YOPD, the only organization in the world with the singular focus of raising awareness of young onset Parkinson's disease. You can find them at spotlightyopd.org. And in the U.S., Parkinson's IQ Plus You, a free series of Parkinson's events from the Michael J. Fox Foundation to educate and empower people with Parkinson's and their partners. Go to michaeljfox.org/PDIQ. Many of these events are being rescheduled for next year, for 2021. And we're also doing some online programming. So we've had some webinars and stuff. So you can check that out there. And thank you for listening. Please take a moment and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, or wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're there, give us a 5-star rating. Just go ahead and do it. 5-star rating. And share in the comments why you recommend the podcast. And then go to your favorite episode and send it to a friend, because everybody should share podcasts.
Keep positive.
Keep exercising.
Keep listening.
We'll talk to you next time.
Canada may be known for its landscapes and friendly people, but beneath the surface lies a darker side of crime, history, and the paranormal. Since 2017, the award-winning Dark Poutine podcast has explored the shadowy corners of the Great White North and beyond, delivering chilling tales from a uniquely Canadian perspective. Hosted by Mike Brown and Matthew Stockton with over 300 episodes and fresh releases every Monday, Dark Poutine is your weekly ticket to the creepier side of Canada. Listen to Dark Poutine on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.